Before leaving, please remember to make a contribution to all of my thousands of hours of work here, PayPal, Patreon, or fundraiser in the description below or on the China Rising Radio Sinoland article page. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Today, let's compare Chinese headlines to the West's. It's like looking at the world from two different universes. Pictured above, my beloved city of Shenzhen, where I had the pleasure of living for 3 years, writing and reporting much about life there. No Western city that I know of can match its quality of life, and that goes for most Chinese cities too, compared to Western cities. It is one thing to study Chinese current events or those of the West, but comparing them is a very shocking experience. I recently took a look at the latter, especially the United States, in a post entitled, "The U.S. is falling apart at the seams and nobody seems to care." The rest of Uranglo-land is hot on its collapsing heels, this while the Chinese nation is a speeding infrastructure and technology bullet racing into the 22nd century. I then showed how proactive Baba Beijing, my name for the leadership in China, and the Chinese people are engaged to improve the quality of life and prosperity for each of the 1.4 billion citizens. That post is entitled, "From Mao to Xi and Zhou to Li, the Communist Party of China, CPC, offers its 1.4 billion citizens real people's democracy, leading with the motto, 'Serve the people.'" As well, China tech is so Promethean and startlingly broad-based to the point that I could not keep up with all the news flowing in to present with my China Tech News Flash platform. I finally cried, "Uncle!" and am maintaining a continually updated online database that you can access 24/7. That post with the hyperlink to the database. "I can't keep up. Baba Beijing and the Chinese nation are so unstoppably prolific with high-tech innovation, invention, infrastructure, space, and military that I've created a hyperlink library growing every day, which you can access 24/7. Enjoy and learn." It really is. It's mind-boggling. It's just unbelievable. These compare and contrast articles/podcasts really capture the geopolitical East versus West zeitgeist. All Uranglo-landers, those living in NATO, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and Israel, should be deeply concerned about the fate of their countries. After you have amazed and surprised yourself with all the above, your choice of articles, audio, podcasts, or short videos, now let's take a closer look at some recent headlines in the Chinese media. First headline, Xi calls for sound development of digital economy, comprehensive regulation, China to seize commanding heights of future development. Baba Beijing is not going to let the Chinese versions of Google, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram tell the government what to do. No wonder they are all banned in country. President Xi Jinping and company have already kicked major tech ass all across the country, fining Chinese companies billions of euro equivalents, but more importantly, passing many new power-limiting laws and society-serving regulations to keep these corporate behemoths on a very tight for the benefit of the 99% leash. In Uranglo-land, it's the out-of-control global capitalist transnational octopi that write the laws while buying government officials and judges like popcorn. As a result, now that China's megatech corporations have been brought to heel, Baba Beijing announced that they are going to lessen the pressure on their corporate necks. The headline is, Beijing signals its tech industry crackdown is winding down. For those of you watching and listening, of course, there's all the hyperlinks are in the article on the China Rising Radio Sinoland page, which you can find in the description below, whether you're watching or listening. Next headline. China's top economic planner vows, quote, all necessary means to curb irrational coal prices. In the West, we are already being told to start paying more for energy, food, and other daily necessities. Inflation rarely happens on its own. It is often due to rampant capitalist profiteering, speculation, and planned shortages by these same said lizard-brained psychopaths. In China, where the Communist Party of China puts the interests of the 99% above that of the country's 1%, Baba Beijing smells a racketeering rat and is going after the coal producers and sellers. Communist Socialist China has its National Development and Reform Commission, the NDRC, which announced that, and I quote, coal prices have become completely divorced from the fundamentals of supply and demand, and as the heating season approaches, prices are still showing a further trend of irrational rises. Sounds like speculation and profiteering to me. So the NDRC called all the industry notables together for a stern powwow and got their commitment to play fair in the interests of the masses. People like you and me. What do you know? Coal futures tumbled overnight, making sure that heating and electric prices don't hurt the Chinese people this winter. Next headline. China's system advantage in tackling northern hemispheres, quote, winter challenge. This, of course, this article is about how prices are going through the roof in the West, but not in China. How can China's government and leaders keep the global capitalist trillionaire dictatorship from gaining control of their country? As a communist socialist country, they have ideals and tools to represent the interests of the people. I call it socialist vision, be it in high-tech or assuring the socio-economic well-being of all the citizens. Next headline. Profits of China's centralSOEs rise 65.6% in January to September. A big part of China's aforementioned communist socialist system advantage is its massive state-owned enterprise SOE portfolio, something which I wrote much about in the China trilogy. They are incredibly well run, and their first mission is to serve the citizens who own them, maintain social harmony, and assure economic prosperity for the 99%. In spite of all the neoliberal privatize everything puke spewing out of the big lie propaganda machine, the BLPM, and flooding global capitalist economies, China's SOEs are very, very profitable, and many of them rank among the Fortune 500 list of the world's biggest corporations. Net profits are up in 2021 by 65.6%, and for the dark days of COVID, 2020-2021, they have grown 19.7%. Those are net profits, not gross profits. These numbers are staggering, with 2021 already filling the people's coffers to the tune of U.S. equivalent $234.1 billion. To give you an idea of how well these people-owned companies are managed, for 2021, the average debt-to-asset ratio was only 64.8%, going down 0.6% year on. Also remind yourself that the vast majority of their CEOs and boards of directors are fire-breathing members of the CPC who live and work by Mao Zedong's celebrated motto, serve the people. Next headline. China's new law to hold parents responsible for children's criminal behavior. You heard that right. Speaking of social harmony, Baba Beijing has passed a law that puts parents on the hook for their children's criminal conduct. There is academic education and family education for which parents are responsible for both. This includes avoiding internet addiction and overly heavy after-school tutoring. The new draft law states that, quote, parents or guardians who fail to fulfill their family education duties or incorrectly do so will bear legal responsibility. If a minor misbehaves or commits crimes, the guardians will be reprimanded or ordered to go through a family education guiding program. End of quote. Local governments are expected to help parents fulfill their societal family duties. Again, the new law states, quote, considering the difficulties that families of left-behind children face, the draft added regulations include requesting local governments to file documents for those families and provide living assistance and other support for starting businesses or getting jobs locally in order to create the conditions for the guardians to carry out family education. End of quote. Wow, it'd be nice to have that kind of support in my country. Need I even bring up what a fucked up socioeconomic and educational mess most of the West is, with all the horrible impacts on families, parents, and children? Okay, so it's better in Europe, but my gosh, the United States and the UK, it's ugly. Next headline, China's GDP expands 9.8% in first 3 quarters. The West COVID pandemic only caused and is only continuing to cause minor societal and economic blips in Sinoland. From the article, major economic indicators showed continued improvements across the board, with retail sales of consumer goods jumping 16.4% year on year in the first 3 quarters of this year. China's value-added industrial output went up 11.8% on year in the first 3 quarters, while fixed asset investment went up 7.3% on year during the period. The country's surveyed urban unemployment rate stood at 4.9% in September, 0.5% percentage points lower than the same period last year, NBS National Bureau of Statistics data showed. During the January to September period, China added 10.45 million new urban jobs in the first 3 quarters, achieving 95% of the target for the whole year. End of quote. Well, I sure don't see many headlines like that in the West. Yikes! 10% economic growth harks back to Deng Xiaoping's Wild East buckaroo days in the 1980s and 90s. Back at the ranch, USA is projected to have 5.6% growth in 2021 after 2.16% in 2019 and negative 3.49% in 2020. For China, it was 5.95% in 2019 and positive 2.3% in 2020. In fact, China was the only country of the major economies in the world to actually have positive growth in, last year during the COVID pandemic. Europe's numbers are very similar to the US's. The future trends are clear for the economic prosperity of the Chinese people versus your Anglo-land. Next headline, China's FDI inflow up 19.6% in first 9 months. Global capitalists can also peer into their crystal balls. Foreign direct investment, FDI, in China is up almost 20% for 2021. In the USA, it is 13%. In spite of every attempt by Western Empire to sabotage, sanction, boycott, and ban China Inc., it is still the go-to country for manufacturing, especially high-tech, logistics, and global supply chain management. Next headline, China's new renewable project rivals all wind and solar in India. China is still the global big kahuna in developing cost-efficient solar, wind, and hydropower, not to mention much safer nuclear and cleaner coal technologies. President Xi Jinping just announced a massive 100 gigawatt renewable energy project in Xinjiang. This one project alone will produce more than all the electricity India derives from its solar and wind grids, and it will produce as much energy as 4 Three Gorges dams, the world's largest hydroelectric project. China successfully tests, this is the next headline, China successfully tests 500-ton solid rocket engine. Of course, China now has its own space station, while the U.S.-controlled ISS is in the process of being decommissioned by 2024. This week, China Tech broke world records by successfully testing a 500-ton solid fuel rocket to meet demand for manned moon landings and deep space missions. NASA has been dependent on Russia for years for rocket engines and will surely keep the USA in third place by privatizing rocketry into the hands of Elon Musk's SpaceX. The difference? China and Russia will use their technology and profits for the benefit of their national economies and tech sectors. Thanks to neoliberal global capitalism, private SpaceX is projected to make Musk the world's first trillionaire. Next headline, Chinese blockbuster hits 5 billion yuan, world's second biggest earner of 2021. So, we will close out today's perusal of China's news headlines in the all-important cultural soft power category. Boo-hoo, Hollywood! 3 of 2021's top 4 global film earners are all Chinese. That being Hi Mom, then The Battle of Lake Changjin, and then Detective Chinatown 3. Only the well-worn Fast and Furious franchises in the top 4, with redundant number 10, which, let's face it, is getting really long in the tooth. So you can learn much about the true state of global affairs by looking at Chinese-related headlines, especially when they can be amplified by background information and contextual analysis. This is Jeff J. Brown, China Rising Radio Sinoland, signing out. Have a great day.
China Rising Radio Sinoland and China Tech News Flash signing out. Please make a contribution to all of my hard work. Thank you.